All right, good morning. So today, all in Romans 12 and 13, and it had so much to say. It was bringing so many thoughts in, but the specific verse that I feel like will sum the whole thing up, it says, is Romans 13:10. Love worketh no ill to his neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the law. So right before we get into love fulfilling, the requirements of the law, we see certain things. He tells us to be subject to our authorities and what they're for. He tells us to pay taxes and how that honors who it's supposed to honor. And then he goes on to say, owe no man anything. So don't take care of your debts, your commitments, your situations, but this is what we're to owe. So owe no man anything but to love one another, for he that loveth another hath fulfilled the law. So that is something that we ought to strive to owe everyone, is to love them. Okay, so what does that look like? Let's see, what does that look like? He goes on and tells us, for this, so when you love and fulfill the law, it says, for this, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. All right, those are physical things. When you're loving someone as yourself, don't forget that. In Matthew, Mark, Leviticus, and Galatians, it says to love your neighbor as yourself. Let's just start with that. None of us hate our own flesh. It goes against our nature. And I don't mean our sinfulness, but I mean ourselves in general. Do you not want what's best for yourself? Then want what's best for the next person. Do you not want to feel loved? Then desire to see that other person feel loved. We are made in the image of God. Think about that. And he is incredibly worthy. All right. He wants a relationship with us. He's kind and loving. He's merciful. He's also perfect, holy, and just. And he has desires and requirements, which is why we had the law, so that we can see and know his character, right, wrong, what is acceptable, what isn't acceptable. And we're made in his image. And so we ought to treat each other that same way. I ought to treat you like you're made in the image of God, and you ought to treat me like I'm made in the image of God, respectfully, honestly, as yourself. So it's not going to work perfectly, because we know that it says, like, as much as is in you, if it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peacefully with all men. We know that sometimes it really does seem like like it's impossible, but at least we have guidelines, we have the word, we can know what it looks like. All right, back to those physical things. So you're not going to commit adultery, kill, steal. Then let's go into the verbal. He says, thou shalt not bear false witness. You're going to lie about someone. Thou shalt not covet, and if there be any other commandment, it is briefly comprehended in this saying, love thy neighbor as thyself. The emotional needs. We should care about the physical well-being of others, the emotional well-being of others, the spiritual well-being of others. Those things are important. They're important to God. But also with that, what else does it look like? All right, go back to Romans 12, where he tells us that we are to present ourselves a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, right? And then he goes on with gifts, but he tells us to let our love be without dissimulation, so without hypocrisy. Your actions and your words are going to line up without dissimulation or hypocrisy. Abhor that which is evil, cleave to that which is good. Then he tells us to be kindly affection one to another with brotherly love. So this is really talking about other believers. Of course we can, love our enemies, because there's a command for that as well, but this is a little bit specific. He tells us not to be slothful in business, to be fervent in spirit, serve the Lord, rejoice in hope, patient in tribulation, continuing instant in prayer, distributing to the necessity of the saint, taking care of the things that you say you're going to take care of, your responsibilities, given to hospitality. Then he goes on to say, bless them which persecute you, curse not, rejoice with them that rejoice, weep with them that weep, be of the same mind one toward another. Pride gets in the way of so many things. It tells us to provide things honest in the sight of all men. We have to be people of our word. God is a God of his word. Everything that he said is going to come to pass, and we ought to desire, we're made in his image, to be like-minded, to be similar. Tells us to, therefore, if thine enemy, and again, this is talking about brothers, hunger, feed him. If he thirsts, give him drink. In doing so, thou shalt heap coals of fire on his head. Just all these things to look at regarding love. What it looks like to love others as yourself, to try to live as peaceably as possible, but to remember that not only are you made in the image of God, so you deserve love, you deserve respect, you should have boundaries. I mean, that's what the Word of God is. It's a set of what life is supposed to look like. You have to honor and uphold that for yourself, just as you would for someone you love and care about. You don't have to abandon your worth because God sees you as worthy. You were made in His image. We don't have to abandon our worth to appease someone else. We need to love them as we would love ourselves. Do you not see how that goes together? So the same respect and love and good things that you would do for them, do for you. And the same things that you would do for you, do for them. That's what it looks like to have, for love to work with no ill to his neighbor. It's the fulfilling of the law. All right. Owe no man anything. Take care of the things that God has entrusted you with, but to love one another. For he that loveth another hath fulfilled the law. Okay? That's what he said, not me. All right. Be blessed.